Welcome to this episode of The Wisdom of Paramahansa Yogananda, brought to you by Self-Realization Fellowship, where each week you can receive inspiration and guidance from Paramahansa Yogananda's Kriya Yoga teachings. The subject of this talk is Giving Thanks for Life's Blessings, Attitudes of a Yogi, by Brother Jayananda.
Hello and welcome. Today's talk is on giving thanks for life's blessings. And it's natural at this time of year, presently in Los Angeles, it's moving into the fall. We just had the vernal equinox where the sun goes over the equator and both day and night are equal for that period of time. And from this point forward, days get shorter. If you look into the history of human culture, through the ages, this time of year, as things are winding down into the winter time, people have given thanks initially for crops and for blessings that have come into their life. And it's something that I think we even practice to this day. Here in the United States, we have a holiday called Thanksgiving, usually celebrated in the last Thursday in November. It was a holiday that was officially proclaimed by Abraham Lincoln, 1863, the middle of the Civil War here in the United States. And he felt that it was important that Americans give thanks for the blessings that they had received, that they remember the Creator who had blessed their lives with so much. Master liked that holiday. When he came to the United States, when he came to America in 1920, he learned of Thanksgiving, and it was something that he celebrated here in the ashrams. We do to this day. The ashrams get together, we have a festive meal. We give thanks to God for all of the blessings that the Lord bestows on us. Our Guru had written, he said, every day should be a day of thanksgiving for the gifts of life, sunshine, water, and the luscious fruits and greens that are indirect gifts from the great giver. God makes us work so that we may deserve to receive his gifts. The all-sufficient one does not need our thanks, however heartfelt. But when we are grateful to him, our attention is concentrated for our highest benefit upon the great source of all supply. Only the Lord can unfailingly, undeceivingly bestow on us the lasting gifts of wisdom, abundance, and spiritual riches, without measure and without limitation. When we talk about Thanksgiving or gratitude, these are attitudes, really. They're ways of thinking or ways of approaching life. I remember years ago, I was working as a secretary for Sri Daya Mata, and she used to dictate letters. And one time, someone had written to her, someone from India, a gentleman with many titles after his name. And he was asking her to please explain the differences between various grades of samadhi. And he knew the Sanskrit terms for each. He had a very specific, he was interested in the different variations and shades of samadhi, how they were unique from one another. And I remember Daya Mata reading through this, and she looked up at me. I was sitting across the table from her desk. And she said, you know, I would have been much more impressed with this man had he asked me, how do I develop devotion? And it was just a little glimpse into a very profound truth. We have many things in yoga that can occupy us in our minds. You know, it's a profound metaphysical science. As deep as you go into it, there's always much more to explore and to understand. But on the foundational level of yoga is this not only right behavior, but right attitudes, the proper way of going about life in which you become successful spiritually. One of our senior ministers, Brother Santoshananda, used to say there are two types of people in the world. The one type wakes up in the morning and says, "Good morning, Lord." And the other one wakes up and says, "Good Lord, morning?" It's the way we go about life. It's the way we look at life. The positive, loving way that we embrace what comes to us in life. And into this category fits gratitude or thankfulness. Our Guru said, avoid a negative approach to life. Why gaze down at the sewers when there is loveliness all around us? One may find fault in even the greatest masterpieces of art, music, and literature. But isn't it better to enjoy their charm and glory? Life has a bright side and a dark side, for the world of relativity is composed of light and shadows. If you permit your thoughts to dwell on evil, you yourself become ugly. Look only for the good in everything, that you absorb the quality of beauty. And there is the key. You look for the good in everything and you absorb the quality of beauty. If you develop an attitude of thankfulness, of gratitude for everything that comes to you in life, for things that surprise you and things that you encounter in everyday life, you start looking and appreciating all of the things that are flowing to you. Without it, then you become like the man who wakes up in the morning and says, "Good Lord, is it morning?" We don't want to be that way. I have 2 Bible passages this morning that I wanted to read. First is from Luke chapter 7. The passage is, "And it came to pass as he went into Jerusalem, that he passed through the midst of Samaria and Galilee. As he entered into a certain village, there met him 10 men that were lepers, which stood afar off. They lifted up their voices and said, 'Jesus, Master, have mercy on us.' And when he saw them, he said unto them, 'Go show yourselves unto the priests.' And it came to pass that as they went, they were cleansed. And one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, and with a loud voice glorified God, and fell down on his face at his feet, giving thanks. And he was a Samaritan. And Jesus answered, said, Were there not 10 that were cleansed? Where are the other 9? There are not found that returned to give glory to God, save this stranger. And he said unto him, Arise, go thy way, thy faith hath made thee whole." And our Guru, in commenting on this passage, he said, Jesus is pointing out the material nature of most people, who even when they are the beneficiaries of providential gifts, rejoice in their good fortune, but remain thoughtlessly lacking in recognition of the giver. Just imagine, out of 10 lepers who were blessed with instantaneous healing of their insidious disease by the divine power in Jesus, only one was moved to express due gratitude. The second is a story of Jesus finding a disciple from the past. And I tell this story, or I like this story on Thanksgiving, because it really points out a deeper gift that people on the spiritual path have been given. Those who have found a guru, those who are on a spiritual path with a guru, we can forget of the great, great blessing that is. This is the story. And this is John chapter 4, verses 5 to 19. Then cometh Jesus unto a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well. And it was about the 6th hour. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus said unto her, Give me a drink. For his disciples were gone away into the city to buy food. Then the woman of Samaria said to him, How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me? I am a woman of Samaria. For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Jesus answered and said unto her, If thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that said to thee, Give me to drink, thou wouldst have asked him, and he would have been given thee living water. The woman said unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou that living water? Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us this well, and drank himself thereof? Jesus answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. The woman said, Sir, give me this water, that I thirst not, and neither come hither to draw. The woman added, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet. Master said about this passage, he said, the meeting of Jesus with the woman of Samaria was not a chance encounter, but a divinely devised guru-disciple reunion. The Samaritan woman was a morally lost disciple of a previous incarnation, whom Jesus wanted to redeem. As with many great masters, Jesus had among his following a number of disciples from past lives. The guru-disciple covenant they had established in previous lifetimes drew them together again by the unseen magnetism of divine law. These were not only the 12 who had qualified themselves in past incarnations to be among the inner circle of Jesus' disciples. Others there were as well. Jesus recognized those disciples who were continuing the relationship they had begun with him in a former life, as distinguished from those who were coming to him for the first time for enlightenment. The woman of Samaria was one such disciple. It appears that during his trip from Judea to Galilee, Jesus purposely planned this meeting, waiting alone at Jacob's well, where the woman would be likely to encounter him, while the disciples went into the city to obtain food. Contrary to the prevailing attitude at that time, that Samaritans were shunned by the Jews as low caste, Jesus engaged the woman in conversation and asked her to draw water for him. The Samaritan's astonishment at Jesus' request to her highlights the differentiation observed by the people in the time of Jesus between the Jews and the Samaritans, the Jews being considered of a higher religion and race as compared to the Samaritans, even as the Brahmins in India are held by an artificial standard to be high caste and spiritually superior to the lower castes of society. Christ did not see people in terms of their race, creed, or social position. He saw the divine in all. So long as any form of arrogant, intolerant consciousness will remain, war and great miseries will continue to visit the earth. The most powerful ammunition for the guns of war and the cause of so many other forms of mass destruction and suffering are selfishness and the limiting race consciousness of egoistic human beings. The Heavenly Father is the progenitor of every race. His children are duty-bound to love their whole family of nations. Any country that goes against that principle of love for humankind will not long prosper, for lack of international harmony and mutual cooperation puts a nation in conflict not only with its neighbors, but with divine law, the organizing principle of the cosmos. Through evolutionary coaxings of the Christ intelligence with its cosmic heartbeat of coalescent love, God is trying to bring unity in the universe. Those who are in tune with this cosmic beneficence, as was Jesus, have love and understanding that embraces the totality of humanity, setting the standard for all of God's children to follow. Gratifying the body and ego with material experiences and possessions can never compensate man for his lost infinite soul happiness. Indeed, the materialist's quest achieves the opposite of what he intended, making him susceptible instead to every form of sorrow and suffering inherent in the cosmic scheme of dualities. When we hear a story such as this about the woman of Samaria, and how she didn't remember anything with regard to Jesus, but he could see in her a lost disciple from the past. It gives us a little clarity into what gifts we've been given, that we can understand these principles, these divine principles that underlie life. One of the teachings that we have in SRF, or one of the understandings that we've been given by our Guru, is this law of karma, in which if we understand it, if we can keep reminding ourselves of it, we can start understanding why things come into our life. Master defines the law of karma as this. He said, the equilibrating law of karma, as expounded in the Hindu scriptures, is one of action and reaction, cause and effect, sowing and reaping. In the course of natural righteousness, Rita, each man by his thoughts and actions becomes the molder of his destiny. Whatever good or bad thoughts and actions he sets in motion must return to him as their starting place, like a circle inexorably completing itself. This is the way the cosmos is set up. Whatever we do, whatever we think, whatever we start, it comes back to us. Oftentimes we don't know that, or we forget that, or it's not explained to us, even this law of karma. And so when things come into our lives, we wonder, why is this there? And why shouldn't I be resentful for this happening to me? It seems like it doesn't have a reason for it. But karma says, whatever we send out, it comes back to us, like a circle inexorably completing itself. Where our Guru gives that definition in Autobiography of a Yogi, he also has this statement. He said, an understanding of karma as the law of justice underlying life's inequalities serves to free the human mind from resentment against God and man. An understanding of this principle takes away the resentment that we feel, the confusion that we feel, the conviction that we feel that life is unfair or I'm being treated unfairly. All of these things that we set in motion, they come back to us. And they cause us confusion sometimes, and certainly allow us or make us believe that we don't have to be thankful for everything that comes. You know, even understanding a law of karma, you can have something negative come into your life, and if you really had a divine way of looking at things, you could say, oh, here's a lesson that I set in motion somewhere in the past, and it's trying to teach me something. Let me see if I can learn it this time, that I don't continue this resentment and this non-understanding. So these things keep coming into my life that are the same. Thankfulness, you know, the ability to step back from things and say, okay, in the grand scheme of things, why are these things in my life? Swami Sri Yukteswar, in Autobiography of a Yogi, made a statement. Swami Sri Yukteswar, of course, was the guru of Paramahansa Yogananda. He said, I do not expect anything from others, so their actions cannot be in opposition to wishes of my own. This is the way a sage approaches life. Nobody can disappoint a sage because they don't expect it. They don't expect these things. Whatever happens, well, that's because someone else is acting in a certain way. And I don't expect things to happen a certain way, so they cannot disappoint me. So I think with an understanding of karma, the law of karma, with an attitude of all of these things that are coming into my life, I set them in motion sometime in the past. It gives us more of an equilibrium, more of a balance, no matter what happens in our life, the good or the bad. Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of the great philosophers of America, he once wrote, he said, try the rough water as well as the smooth, meaning try the difficult things as well as the easy things. He said, rough water can teach us lessons worth knowing. When the state is unquiet, personal qualities are more than ever decisive. Fear not a revolution which will constrain you to live 5 years in one. The finished man of the world must eat of every apple once. If we approach the challenges in life and learn to be thankful not only when things are rosy and things are going according to our plans, but even when things are contrary to them, we become much more much stronger, much more able to take the things that life is giving us, because it's never always smooth. I think in the West we especially need to do this, or need to learn this. Our culture and our society really is built on making things easier and easier. It always has been. It's the scientific can-do attitude of the West, that if things are getting in our way or causing discomfort, what can we do to overcome them? I think it's much less that way. I think it's much more accepting in India. I remember years ago there was a fellow who traveled here from India, and I was discussing with him. It was monsoon over in India, and during monsoon they can get 100 inches of rain in 3 or 4 months. It just rains every day, all day, torrential. And when he was telling me what monsoon was like there, I said, "How do you put up with it? How do you?" And his answer to me was very Indian, very accepting. You know, something that I saw in the people there. He said, "Yes, it is difficult and trying after a couple of months. Everything is wet, and you go everywhere with an umbrella and your galoshes. But you just carry on the best you can." That's so, so perfectly expressed. You just carry on the best you can. And in many ways, I think that here in the West especially, we have to learn that. You just carry on the best you can. Things are not always ideal. Our Guru said that when you let God control you, He awakens you from the nightmare fears and sorrows of mortal delusion and causes this ocean of wisdom to flow through the little channel of your mind, expanding it with His omnipresence and immortality. And he also said, surrender yourself to God and you will find that your life will become like a beautiful melody. If you try to do everything in the consciousness of God, you will see with joy that every day He is choosing certain duties for you to perform. This ability to take things as they come and to not only take them, but to be okay with them. No, they're not ideal. If you were to choose between something that is going to go smoothly and something that's going to go a little bit more difficult, most of us would choose the smooth path. But it's just not to become so riled up when things are not going according to our plans. I saw a cartoon of some years ago. There was a cartoon of two devils who were in this cartoon, and they were looking over this landscape of hell, with the fire and the brimstone and devils all in the distance, all working. And then there was one fellow who was in hell, but he had a wheelbarrow, and he was kind of coming up to the foreground, and he was whistling, and it looked like he was having the best time. And one devil is saying to the other, he says, somehow I feel like our message is just not getting to that guy. He was happy no matter what happened. He had this attitude of everything is fine. We have to develop more of that no matter what life gives us, we have the happiness and the joy that expresses through us. Understanding the law of karma is what we're talking about as one of the ways to develop that thankfulness. Another way is to step back from all of the things we're going through and realize what life really is. Our Guru had many ways of expressing that. He said it's like we're like the light on a screen in a movie theater. He also used to say often, he also said it was a school, it was a hospital, it was all these things that we were trying to overcome. We're trying to learn through our lessons, we're trying to progress. But he also said that life was like a stage, and we are all actors on it. And I wanted to read to you his description of this life as a stage and us as actors. This was in Science of Religion. And he said, our Guru wrote, verily in all respects the world may be likened to a stage. The stage manager chooses people to help him in the enactment of a certain play. He allots particular parts to particular persons. All of them work according to his directions. One the stage manager makes a king, one a minister, one a servant, another a hero, and so on. One person has to play a sorrowful part, another a joyful role. If each man plays his part according to the directions of the stage manager, then the play, with all its diversities of comical, serious, and sorrowful parts, becomes successful. Even the insignificant parts have their indispensable places in the play. The success of the play lies in the perfect acting out of each part. Each actor plays his role of sorrow or pleasure realistically, and to all outward appearances seems to be affected by it. But inwardly he remains untouched by it or by the passions he portrays: love, hate, desire, malice, pride, humility. But if an actor, in the playing of a part, identified himself with a certain situation or a particular feeling expressed in the play, and lost his own individuality, it would be thought foolish, to say the least. A story will bring out the latter part clearly. Once in the house of a rich man, the play of Ramayana was staged. In the course of the play, it was found that the man who should play the part of Hanuman, a monkey, the attendant friend of Rama, was missing. In his perplexity, the stage manager seized upon an ugly simpleton, Nilkamal by name, and sought to make him enact the part of Hanuman. Nilkamal at first refused, but was forced to appear on the stage. His ugly appearance excited loud laughter among the spectators, and they began to shout in merriment, "Hanuman! Hanuman!" Nilkamal could hardly bear this. He forgot that it was only a play, and bawled out in exasperation, "Why, sirs, do you call me Hanuman? Why do you laugh? I am not Hanuman. The stage manager made me come out here this way." In this complex world, our lives are nothing but plays. But alas, we identify ourselves with the play, and hence feel disgust, sorrow, and pleasure. We forget the direction and injunction of the great stage manager. In the act of living our lives, playing our parts, we feel as real as all our sorrows and pleasures, loves and hates. In a word, we become attached, affected. This play of the world is without beginning and end. Everyone should play his part as assigned by the great stage manager ungrudgingly, should play for the sake of the play only, should act sorrowful when playing sorrowful parts or pleased when playing pleasurable parts, but should never inwardly be identified with the play. Nor should one wish to play another's part. If everyone in the world portrayed the role of a king, the play itself would lose interest and meaning. He that has attained bliss consciousness will feel the world to be a stage and will play out his part as best he can, remembering the great stage manager, God, and knowing and feeling his plan and direction. Life is a stage, and we're playing our parts. And if those parts can be filled with joy and gratitude and thankfulness for the opportunity to play our parts, we're far ahead. We're far ahead of a world who identifies so closely with what's happening in their lives that that becomes their reality. The truth is, God and our Guru, our Master, are in charge of our lives. And the more we can remember that, the more we can tune in with that, then the more successful and happy our lives become. Having this attitude, one time, Brother Anandamoy told us a story that Master said somewhere where some gift was given, Master clarified and said, when God gives, you take. When he doesn't give, you don't mind. That really summarizes the attitude of a divine soul. We're content. We're content no matter where we're placed, no matter what happens in our life. When God gives, we take. When he doesn't, we don't mind. I do believe that as we progress, as we keep on meditating through the years, as we continue to study and tune in with the Guru through his words and his thoughts, this idea of the right way of thinking becomes more and more a natural part of who we are. Gratitude is a part of it. Just the thankfulness for all that flows to us. There was a story that Daya Mata used to tell. She was very strongly tested in her life, and she was given responsibilities that seemed far above her ability to cope, especially toward the end of our Guru's life in the late 40s and early 50s. Guruji was handing more and more responsibility to Daya Mata, and to the point where it was almost, it would have been enough to break most people. She continued on somehow. But there was a point where she had taken on such responsibility that she felt she couldn't take on any more. And then Master left for the desert. He left to the desert. In his latter years, he was dictating many of his scriptures, and he was concentrated more on getting these writings out than on the organizational work that Daya Mata was handling. And when he left for the desert, Daya Mata said she spent a sleepless night because she had said the night before to the Guru, "I don't think I can continue, I just too much." And the next day, the Guru phoned in from the desert, and Daya Mata said to him, "Sir, I'm so sorry. I don't know how I'll continue on, but I'll do the best I can." And to which our Guru answered, "That's all I ask. That's all I ask." I think there's a great lesson in a story like that. That sometimes we do seem stretched. Sometimes we do seem like there are so many lessons in our life and so many difficulties to overcome that it's too much. You know, we'd rather have just an easy life rather than a difficult life. And our Guru is really asking us, just do the best you can. And we'll see you through. You'll get through it. You know, this idea of having that wisdom to see that things that come into our life are meant to be there, that life is a stage, that the Guru is the stage director, is just asking us to play our part to the best of our ability. When we have that sense of understanding, then life becomes a little easier because we can make sense philosophically of what's happening to us. Studying the Guru's teachings, being in touch with the way he thinks and what these right attitudes, it starts to affect us, certainly. Practicing the presence, bringing the thought of the Guru with us, no matter what happens in our life. There's a metaphysical meditation that I came across recently, which says simply, "I will purify my mind with the thought that God is guiding my every activity. I will purify my mind with the thought that God is guiding my every activity." See, even this idea of practicing the presence, that God is in our lives, that Guru is in our lives, and that these things are coming from them, it purifies our consciousness, it purifies our thinking, it automatically makes us thankful for life's blessings and life's difficulties that come our way. You know, yes, these are on a foundational level of the science of yoga, but if you look at them from this perspective, even these simple things become scientific. Okay, if we just think that these things are coming to us from God, that purifies our mind. That's a law that our Guru is explaining to us. And then, of course, there's meditation. You know, the greatest way in which we transform ourselves, in which we become, we have this grateful aspect to the way we look at things in life. Brother Bhaktinanda used to tell the story about Rajarsi Janakananda. Rajarsi Janakananda was the close disciple of our Guru, very advanced disciple, and he became the president after our Guru's passing in 1952. He was a very deep yogi. He used to go into samadhi yoga when he meditated. And one time Brother Bhaktananda was walking with Rajarsi in Encinitas. And Rajarsi just kept repeating as he was walking up and down the Encinitas Hermitage paths. He was just saying to himself, what Master has done for me, what Master has done for me. He just kept repeating it. And Brother Bhaktananda was thinking, here is someone who did tremendous things for our Guru. He was a very wealthy businessman. He helped our Guru financially. It seemed like he was always going out of his way to help. And yet all he could think of, all he could say was, what Master has done for me. He realized that this blessing that he received through learning this yogic path through our Guru, what it had done for his life, and was so thankful for it. Here's something from Rajarsi Janakananda. And interestingly, he said this, he was a host at a Thanksgiving Day, 1953, in the Hermitage in Encinitas with about 50 SRF devotees. And this is what he said when he was talking in his talk there after the meal. He said, we think our life depends on breath. We believe we have got to be breathing all the time. In a room where the air is not fresh, we get sleepy and lose our energy. But an SRF yogi learns how to calm and control the breath. How wonderful it is to be able to sit perfectly still without breath and to live directly on the cosmic energy that is all about us and within us. If that is not a blessing which a man should give his life to find and enjoy, I don't know what anyone could rightly call a blessing. He had experienced the deepest states of yoga. He had meditated to the point where he could go breathless and worship the Lord in perfect stillness, both outwardly and inwardly, and realized that this really is the ultimate gift in which to give thanks for. Meditation brings that to us, and we don't even have to get to the place where we're in these final stages of conquering or understanding or perfecting the science of yoga. Even from the earliest stages, we start to feel a peace and a joy within. And we realize what we have to be thankful for. That this perspective this gives us on life, this appreciation for everything around us, it flows forth naturally from within. And then it's not a matter of reminding ourselves outwardly that this is what yoga, or this is what is important in life. We know it intuitively. This is how we approach life. This is what we look at in life. Rajarsi Janakananda said in another place, he said, it is a great blessing, through Master's grace, to have realized myself to be not merely a body, but an immortal soul. And someday that will be your own blessing, when you do not identify yourself with the body, but know your true nature of spirit. When you melt into God, you will understand that He is the only reality. Master is here, just behind the darkness of our closed eyes. Receive the blessing that He gives you even now, and melt with Him into the ocean of God's joy. Master wants us to be happy, and He is always with us. Tune in with Him, and you will never be without the bliss, the love, and the peace of God. And to conclude, these are some words of our Guru. He said, thanksgiving and praise open in your consciousness the way for spiritual growth and supply to come to you. Spirit pushes itself out into visible manifestation as soon as a channel is opened through which it can flow. You should be thankful for everything at all times. Realize that all power to think and speak and act comes from God, and that He is with you now, guiding and inspiring you. So God bless you all. May you be thankful and appreciative for all of the blessings flowing into your life, for they certainly are there.
This has been a production of Self-Realization Fellowship. a non-profit organization founded by Paramahansa Yogananda in 1920. For more information about Self-Realization Fellowship and Paramahansa Yogananda, please visit yogananda.org.